Hi everybody, this summary is for Tuesday. What day is today? October 3rd. We just started lesson 3.1, so we're in chapter 3, lesson 1, evaluating new information from Mars. I'm going to make this brief. We ended up talking about a lot of stuff and we didn't get through everything that I wanted to. So what we did is we started with lesson 3.1. There's a warm-up, and so I want you to go ahead and go into that warm-up. And when you'll notice that the question is not just asking you which landform you think it was, but it's starting to ask you the question why. And the reason for that is because this chapter's title is How Do Scientists Write a Scientific Argument when they think that they have the right answer. So you're going to notice that we're really starting to shift, and we're looking at our evidence and we're saying, how does this evidence support our claim? So I'll be referring to race, and if you have any questions about that, then you can ask me when you come back to school. So go ahead and do warm-up number 1. Make sure that you follow race, restate answer, cite your evidence. So make sure you tell me specifically which piece of evidence so far that we've done that you think is a good answer or it supports your claim. But then don't forget to write your explanation. And we talked about this a lot in class, and this is kind of one of the reasons why we didn't get finished with a lot more than what I thought we would. Explaining your evidence doesn't just mean describing your evidence. Explaining your evidence really means, how does this evidence support my claim? And one of the reasons why I'm asking you to memorize your key concepts is because you're going to use your key concepts to explain why your evidence supports your claim. So go ahead and try this warm-up. There's no right or wrong answer. This is just kind of what we use to jumpstart our question. Finish that and hand it in, and then go ahead and keep playing the rest of this video. All right, so our chapter 3 question is, how can we decide which is the best evidence about the geologic process that formed the channel on Mars? And again, I'm going to talk to you about race. So the investigation question is, how do scientists construct arguments? And I color-coded this to kind of correlate with race, because I want you to understand, I'm not asking you in this scientific argument, I'm not asking you to do anything that you don't already know or haven't already practiced doing with race. So number 1, you have to make a claim. And making a claim is just restating and answering the question. If you remember on your vocabulary, a claim is an answer to an investigation question. It's just an answer. And then number 2, you're going to cite your evidence. Your evidence is information about the natural world that you're going to use to justify your answer. And then number 3 is using reasoning to explain how the evidence supports your claim. The use of the word reasoning, the definition reasoning is being able to explain further how your evidence supports your claim. So I color-coded these because I want you to see that this really is race. I'm not asking you to do anything different. And if you can just remember race, and I've got the poster in my room, if you can remember those steps, then you've already got this thing knocked out of the park. You'll do just great. Okay, so in the warm-up, well, I'm not going to go over that with you. This is what I want to go over. So in chapter 1, we talked about these 2 images of the landforms, and they gave us evidence about what geologic process might have formed the channel. So the question basically is, could lava have formed it, or could water have formed it? And the answer is yes. For both of those, they could have. They both looked exactly the same. The picture on the left on the flowing lava and the picture on the very right in the flowing water sort of reminded us of what we saw on the channel on Mars. And then last week we talked about the use of models, and we were not asking the same question. It wasn't could they form the channel, it was it wasn't do they look like it, it was could they form it. So in chapter 2 we use models to say yes, flowing lava and flowing water could actually form channels. So this is an evidence gradient tool, and it's going to help us sort of organize our data or evidence so that we can find out how convincing it is. If you were at Springfield Elementary, this is familiar to you. You've used this before. If you're at Westmont, let me explain it real quickly. So you'll see the different gradients or the different color shadings of gray. If you have evidence that's very weak, think of like weak tea. It's kind of clear. It's just barely colored. Your weak evidence would go down in that box. Good evidence is a little bit darker, and then really strong tea or strong coffee is dark, and so your most convincing, strongest evidence goes up there. And then we're going to summarize our evidence, and then we're also going to use our key concepts to explain why that evidence supports the claim. This is in today's folder in Schoology. Go ahead and copy it in your folder, and then let's just follow along. Okay, so these are our evidence cards so far. We've got evidence card A and B, those show the pictures, and evidence cards C and D show the models. And so if we were to place evidence cards A, B, C, and D, where would we place them? And then we're going to remember to use reasoning to explain why. So basically, I'm modeling for you. You just need to copy. So if I'm trying to find out, I'm going to go back to these pictures. If I look at evidence cards A and B, in class, a lot of the kids wanted to put this in good evidence. They think this is really good evidence. And I said, okay, if we put those in good evidence, then do you think evidence cards C and D is better evidence? And everybody said, yeah, we think that's better evidence. And I said, okay, how come? So they were saying evidence cards A and B just kind of show what they look like. And I said, well, do you remember we used different words in a word bank to describe them? I said, were there any words that were different? No, all the words we used were the same for both of them. And I said, okay. And so the evidence cards, we realized, according to key concept number 3, scientists use models. So we know evidence cards C and D are models, and scientists can use models. And so we're going to go ahead and put evidence cards C and D higher than A and B. But then that left, like, okay, where do we actually put them? If we put C and D, the models, if we put them way up in the most convincing evidence, I said, okay, that's up there. Which one of those can you tell me without a shadow of a doubt which one formed the channel on Mars? And nobody could. So then we know that C and D cannot be the most convincing evidence because there's some leeway there. We're not totally convinced yet. So we're going to move C and D down to the good evidence, and we're going to do A and B in the weak evidence. So go ahead and put A and B in this column where it says card letter. And then I'm going to model to you what I want you to say, because we've got to, first of all, summarize the evidence on the cards. Tell me what the evidence is showing. And then we're going to explain or use key concepts to explain why that evidence supports the claim, but it's also in the weak spot. So I said this evidence shows pictures of landforms on Earth. That's the summarization. And then it says, although landforms on 2 rocky planets may have been formed by the same geologic event, that's key concept number 2. Because we use the same words to describe the shape of both, this is weak evidence. There's no difference between them. And then I'm going to move on to the next one. So now we're trying to think about C and D. So they would go here in good evidence. And again, watch what I'm doing. I'm going to summarize, and then I'm going to use a key concept or 2 to explain why we've got them right here for good evidence. So it says both of these models prove that liquid water and lava can make channels. Here's my key concept number 3. We can use models as evidence, but then key concept number 5 says models are not the same as the actual geologic process, so that's why they're in the good evidence, not most convincing. Okay, go ahead and pause this and fill all of this in. Please color code so that you know the pink is me using reasoning to explain why the evidence supports my claim. Okay, we just got here. I have a voicemail. I'm going to try and put it up and see if you can hear it. Hang on.
Hi, Shannon. This is Robert Johnson with NASA. Just calling to verify that you got the evidence that I sent you. If you have any questions or need me to follow up with anything, just send me an email. Thank you.
So Robert Johnson from NASA called me. He has given me real data about Mars, and that was gathered by instruments on the spacecrafts orbiting Mars. This is super exciting. Every year he calls me, every year he gives me this evidence. I love him. He's such a good guy. All right, so this is where we stopped, and I will share that information with you tomorrow. All right, see ya.